So in this video, I'm going to go over the third step when you're trying to balance your dopamine or overcome your dopaminergic habits. And so by this point, you've hopefully created a vision for your life about why you want to change your habits. And from my last video, you've hopefully thought about how you could replace those old habits with things that are more effortful but still fulfill the values and the needs that you have. So now we need to choose the actual kind of method or way that you will cut out those old habits. And there's two main methods. You can either try to cut them out all at once, all together, which is called going cold turkey, or you can try and progressively reduce the amount of time you spend doing those things, which you could call like tapering or weaning down. Each of these methods have been shown to work. For example, in studies done on addiction to substances, each of them is effective at helping people change their habits. And so it really comes down to your personal preference and your biology, what really works for you, whether you can go straight out cold turkey or if you need to progressively reduce using whatever habit or behavior you engage in. And so the ultimate goal is to remove those things so your brain can reset and start enjoying and feeling motivated to do things that improve your life and take effort. And so each of these methods gets you there. The cold turkey method, it gets you there faster because you're just completely cutting it out, but also has some downsides, with it being a little bit risky if you are not fully prepared to complete that sort of detox, and you end up what's called relapsing or going back to that habit, and then that can be very discouraging. Whereas with the weaning method, you can kind of stack up wins as you create realistic goals to reduce the time you spend on that habit or the amount that you use that substance or addictive food. And just for some people, they're not able to do the weaning method. Any little bit just creates a lot of craving and they have to use a ton of whatever they do. And so they actually need to go cold turkey. And so when it comes to these different things, there are a few different tips that I would give to make it more effective for you. When it comes to the cold turkey method, my main recommendation is to use every tool at your disposal. So if you think about people with addiction to substances like drugs or alcohol, they often need to go to a rehab or a detox center where it's impossible for them to use their drug. And so that allows them to actually complete that cold turkey method because they just can't relapse. And so that's the hope, and what I would recommend if you're doing the cold turkey method is to use every tool possible to make it impossible or very hard for you to use whatever your drug is or habit that you're trying to quit. So we already talked about vision and replacement, and in another video we'll talk more about optimizing your environment. That's a really great tool you can use to make it really hard for you to engage in that habit. Also things like mindfulness, taking care of your body. The more you can use all of these tools, get them as on point as possible, the higher chance you will have of completing this cold turkey and what you could consider dopamine detox and make it successful. Because depending on the severity of your dependency to that habit, it could take weeks or even a month or more of abstaining to feel like those cravings are going away and now you're feeling different and you're feeling more motivated. And so it's important to have as many of these tools dialed in as possible to be successful. Now about the taper or the weaning method. First of all, it's important to know that a lot of people actually fail dopamine detoxes when they're trying to do the cold turkey method. It's very difficult and sometimes even impossible to do by yourself or without the right tools. And so give yourself permission to take some time using this method instead to progressively reduce your use of your habit or substance or food or whatever. Think about how long you've had this habit. It's okay to take a couple months or longer to change it and to make progress. It's okay. You can be patient. Give yourself permission to do that, because it's better to reach that goal than to go all out on a dopamine detox and then fail and give up, right? And so one really good tip when it comes to this method is to involve some sort of reinforcement or reward for yourself, because you're creating a realistic goal. For example, you might say, okay, I've been spending 4 hours on YouTube every day. Tomorrow I'm going to spend 3 hours and 30 minutes. And so if you do that, you can tell yourself, I will give myself this reward, whatever you like to do that isn't another addictive habit, but that can reinforce yourself for reaching that goal. And it could even be the habit itself. For example, if you spent 3 hours on YouTube during the day, you could say, okay, now I can reward myself with that last 30 minutes at the end of the day. But if I spend more than that, then I don't get that. And so giving yourself that reinforcement can allow yourself to have motivation to keep working towards those goals. So we're going to be talking more about all the tools that help you to be successful with either of these methods in future videos. So subscribe if you want to hear more about those. And also comment down below what method you're thinking about using, and if you've ever tried either of one of these before. Thanks for watching.